Dear students, our today's lecture is devoted to the principles of criteria-based assessment. First, we'll look through instructive and methodological papers. First is State Compulsory Educational Standard, subject program, course plan or curricula, the procedure of criteria-based assessment of learners, academic achievements in the educational organization, implementing subject programs of primary, secondary, and high school education, criteria-based assessment, primary, secondary, and high school level, handbooks for the teacher, collection of tasks for formative assessment, and, of course, methodological recommendations for summative assessment.
So, criteria-based assessment is founded on several key principles that ensure fairness, clarity, and effectiveness in evaluating students' learning outcomes. These principles form the basis of a modern student-centered assessment system where every learner is evaluated according to specific, transparent standards rather than in comparison with others. Let's look closer at each of 6 principles shown in this diagram. At the center, we have the principles of criteria-based assessment, which guide teachers in planning, conducting, and interpreting the results of students' evaluation. These principles guarantee that the assessment process is both pedagogically sound and psychologically supportive. The first principle is objectivity. Objectivity means that every student is assessed according to the same clearly defined criteria, leaving no room for personal bias or subjectivity. The teacher's evaluation depends only on evidence on how well the students' work meet the established standards. This ensures that all students have equal opportunities to demonstrate their knowledge and skills. The second principle is transparency. Transparency makes the learning and assessment process clear for both teachers and students. Before completing any task, students should know the criteria on which they will be evaluated and the expectations for each performance level. When assessment is transparent, it builds trust, reduces anxiety, and motivates students to take responsibility for their learning. Next comes validity. Validity ensures that the assessment truly measures what it is intended to measure. For example, if a task is designed to test writing skills, it should not be influenced by unrelated factors such as handwriting or formatting. Valid assessment tasks align with learning objectives and curriculum standards, making the results meaningful and accurate. The fourth principle is reliability. Reliability refers to the stability and consistency of results. When assessment criteria are applied constantly by different teachers or across different contexts, students' grades remain comparable and fair. Reliability achieved through clear rubrics, standardized procedures, and moderation among teachers. The fifth principle is fairness. Fairness means that the assessment process respects the abilities, backgrounds, and learning needs of all students. Each learner should be evaluated under equal conditions and given the chance to show their strengths. Fair assessments promotes inclusion and supports learners with different educational or linguistic needs. Finally, we have differentiation. Differentiation acknowledges that students have different abilities, learning paces, and styles. Criterion-based assessment allows teachers to design tasks with varying levels of complexity, ensuring that all students can succeed according to their potential. This principle transforms assessment into a tool for growth rather than competition.
So, related to the principles of criteria-based assessment, we are expected to answer the following questions. What is the relationship between learning and assessment? And the main question is, what is a good assessment? What is the content of good assessment? What forms are inherent to criteria-based assessment? What affects the assessment success? How does criteria-based assessment affect the learning process itself? First of all, let's pay attention to the definition of assessment of learning achievement. So, assessment of learning achievement, first of all, is a process of establishing the level of accordance between the learner's achieved results and the planned learning objectives for adjusting and managing the educational process through feedback, which are in a regular form. Criteria-based assessment itself also is a process based on conformity of learners' learning achievement with clearly defined. It is of vital importance that those criteria are expected to be clearly defined and known both to teacher and the students. Collectively developed criteria complying with the other objectives and the content of education, and that are clear to learners, even parents and educators themselves. Now let's consider principles of criteria-based assessment. The first one is interrelation of learning assessment. Assessment is an integral part, one of the most important parts of learning. It is directly related to the objectives and expected outcomes of the subject program. Objectivity, reliability, and validity. Assessment provides accurate and reliable information. It ensures the criteria and tools applied provide assessments of learning objectives and expected outcomes. Transparency and accessibility. Assessment provides clear and comprehensible information as well as increases the interest of all participants of learning process. Continuity. Assessment is, first of all, a continuous process that enables timely and systematically monitor the progress of educational achievements of the students. And finally, focus on development. Assessment determines the direction of development for educational system, schools, educational institutions, teachers, and the students. Thank you very much for your attention.